What's up, YouTube? Mike from Mass here, Mass Aquariums, and I did get a little comment today about where is part 2 of the beginner's guide to the high-tech planted tank. So here it is. And I just realized I probably could have gone over everything in a one-part series. So I swear I wasn't trying to get 2 video views out of this. I like to try to keep all my videos, because I like to ramble. I try to keep them under 8 minutes. So if I feel like it might take more than 8 minutes, I try to do it in 2 videos. But anywho, one thing I wanted to mention, I'm very excited to announce that my Aquarium Box website now offers all sorts of Aquascaping Stone, and next week we will go live on Aquascaping Driftwood. We have Malaysian driftwood, spider driftwood, any driftwood you can think of, we're going to carry it, as well as we are now live for Aquascaping Stone, Dragon Stone, Oiko Stone, Cereal Stone, you name it. We've got some, I think, an Emerald Stone. We've got some crazy stone for sale, and it's awesome. Greg just packed every box up for you guys. It's a really good deal. We're going cheap on this one, so we just want to get you guys some good stone. Anyway, see, that's why I try to keep it under 8 minutes. So if you've listened this long, here's the part 2 of Beginner's Guide to High-Tech Tanks. Now, in the first video, I basically went over what I'm running on this tank and the whole light schedule. So I want to talk about CO2, soil, and fertilizers. Once you have your tank set up and running and planted, and you've figured out your light duration, the intensity, by that I mean whether it's right on top of your tank or it's raised up, and you've done anything you need to do with your lighting, it's time to crank up that CO2 and start dosing, or if you have whatever type of soil you're using, what you need to put in the soil or don't need to put in the soil. So let's talk about CO2. You crank that CO2 up. I like to put my CO2, it has a solenoid, which is basically like a timer, a trigger that you hook up to a timer, and I have my CO2 come on 1 hour before my lights come on, and it stays on 1 hour after my lights go off. I have it at roughly 2 to 3 bubbles per second. I like to keep it really, really low. I don't really crank it. I've tried cranking it. It's like I've been telling everybody, it's about the balance. So you slowly tick it up. If you don't have a meter, you just keep an eye on your fish. You can tell, if your fish are dying for no reason, then you're gassing them out. So just keep an eye on your fish and slowly crank up the needle valve until it reaches where you believe your fish are fine and it works with your lighting. Just trying to keep this simple. By that I mean, as long as your fish aren't getting gassed out, the more CO2 you can put in your tank and get away with, the better with what, if you have strong lights, which if you're doing a high-tech tank, you're going to have high lighting. So, do you have soil in your high-tech tank? Most high-tech tanks do. Most don't use pea gravel, or it's all like organic dirt, aqua soil. Sometimes it's capped with sand, sometimes it's capped with gravel, but usually when you're doing a high-tech tank, you're packing your substrate with nutrients. Now, in this particular tank, I have aqua soil behind the rockscape on the left, and the rest of the tank is complete just regular sand. It's inert, it does not have anything that plants would feed off of. So what I do in that situation is I put root tabs in between all the plants in the inert substrate that I have, and they will slowly break down and feed the roots of these plants. So you buy aqua soil and you cap it with gravel, and your substrate is completely filled with nutrients, or you need to add your own nutrients to an inert substrate such as just gravel, just sand, to feed your plants. That is fertilizing, in a sense, as simple as you can go. Now, if you're getting into a more high-tech dosing schedule with liquid ferts or dry fertilizers, then you're really starting to get to the point where your tank is going to have to be watched for. You're gonna have to try to balance. Whether there's really no true balance, but you're gonna have to try to follow the directions and balance out your tank on what days you need to dose. Is it every other day? Is it once a day of this and twice a day of this? Are you dosing potassium and iron and all your micro elements? And I would just, if you can, I would just use root tabs and use dry fertilizers to substitute for those high demanding plants. If you're doing low demanding plants, it doesn't mean you can't have them in a high tech tank, but you don't need to dose all those fertilizers. All that's in my tank that I dose is root tabs for the plants and CO2. I don't put any micro in. I don't put any Excel, any Flourish, any iron, any potassium in this tank anymore. Not anymore. I never did. I used to in all my other tanks. And as you can see, everything's doing just fine. So, speaking of dosing, a lot of high-tech reefers, as well as planted tank guys, auto dose. They have auto dose pumps where they can top off their tank with water that's adding slowly. It's dripping in all those fertilizers at a real slow pace. Instead of dumping 10 mLs in every morning and 10 mLs of this every night, it's just dripping small micro parts of these fertilizers into your tank, so it's constantly on a constant fertilization. Now, you can go that way too. High tech is, high money, high maintenance, but this is like I said before, a beginner's guide. There's many more things you need to learn. I'm just kind of giving you the Cliff's Notes to what you might want to think of when you're starting a high-tech planted tank. This is for beginners, guys. I've gotten a lot of comments that this isn't a high-tech tank, that's not a high-tech tank, because there are many ways to do a high-tech tank. I'm just giving you the small pieces to get into, or to know what you're getting into when you're going to start a tank like this. And that's about it. I'm just going to wrap up the two-part series. Like I said, I apologize. I could have done it in one part, but now we get 2 8-minute videos. So, sorry for that. Go get yourself a My Aquarium Box. Go visit www.myaquariumbox.com and now get your aquascaping hardscape from My Aquarium Box. We also have coral fragging kits. We're about to launch the driftwood and a planted tank kit, and we now offer a cichlid box as well as our freshwater and saltwater box. Go visit myaquariumbox.com, folks. Get yourself the gift that keeps on giving. I'm out.